coming at you with another episode. And today I'm going to talk about, or the topic is going to be, did you know how many games your athlete is actually playing every year? So on Sunday, I posted on Instagram because it popped in my head and I was very curious. How many games are kids playing all year round? And this was from a basketball standpoint, which will reflect on volleyball, which will reflect on, a lot of other sports, the sports that are heavy with AAU and club. And, I went on Google, went on the internet, and I just typed in, how many basketball games are basketball players are playing during the AAU season? How many games are basketball players playing during their in season? How many practices, and so on and so forth. So here's the number that I came up with. So the first one is how many games athletes are playing per year, and this isn't exact. And on the Instagram post it says 242 to 358. So where did I come up with that number? So what I did is I looked at how many games are typically played in AAU season. An AAU could be anywhere from 24 to 30 weeks long, depending on the athlete. Nowadays, athletes are going from, March all the way until, end of September playing AAU, maybe having August off, maybe having June off. And the number came out to be, 25 to 40 AAU games. Now factor in during that season, they're going to play about, they're going to have 1 to 2 practices. So that could be up to 48 practices. And those practices are probably 90 minutes to 2 hours. Next, during the basketball season, whether it's modified, freshman, JV, varsity, obviously varsity will have more games. It could be anywhere from 25 to 30 games. I know when I played, varsity basketball, I believe we hit 25. We might have won 30 games because, when we went to states, I think we ended up with 30 games by the end of that year. And then practice, right during the season, you might have 120 practices. Factor in a 24-week season, the first month you're going 6 days a week. The second month you might go 5 days and then 2 scrimmages and a game, and then from there you're probably hitting about 4 practices a week with 2 games. And then the practices get shorter and get lighter as the season goes on, but practices probably average in high school at least 2 hours long. So that's 120 practices, and then when you look at once the season ends, athletes have private skill sessions, larger group sessions, and then athletes are playing, they're training by themselves or playing pickup. So that can accommodate to up to, 24 to 48 of, group or skilled sessions with a skills coach. And then it can, count up to be about 48 to 72 individualized, by themselves pickup sessions or just shooting on their own, 48 to 72 sessions. So that's where I came up with that number of 358. Now, mind you, there's only 365 days in a year. So that means athletes are taking 1 week off. And that typically is how it is. The season ends, they take a week off to rest and recover, and then they go right back to playing their AAU, aggressively playing pickup, getting their shots up, things like that. And I see it all the time where kids, the day their season ended, they're in the gym that night trying to get better. And there's nothing wrong with that. I just want to bring this to everyone's light. And then next, we have strength training. Now, in my experience, I've been doing this for 10 years. I've worked with a lot of athletes. I've communicated with a lot of coaches, skills coaches, strength coaches, private sector, high school with strength and conditioning coaches. And at least in the upstate New York area, strength training, we're lucky if athletes are training once a week consistently for the entire off season. And that could be, so if an off season is 6 months, that's 24 weeks. So that's athletes are either getting 24 to 48 sessions in that 6 months, and in-season training is very minimal. It usually doesn't happen because coaches want to get practice in. Now, the main reason why I'm bringing this to everyone's attention and talking about this, again, it isn't to say that like playing basketball is a bad thing. I played basketball, but I also played another sport. So I had 3 months where I played basketball once a week. Maybe I did a tournament here and there during the baseball season. So that, that's why we always highlight being a multi-sport athlete, because you're forced to take a break, forced to work on different mechanics, different skills. The one reason why, this is alarming is because of this theory called the GAS theory, and this is the general adaptation syndrome. This is what we talk about when we look at athletes adapting and getting stronger, faster, more explosive, less injury prone. Because when you do the same thing over and over and over again, you're going to get hurt. That's why we're seeing increased soft tissue injuries. That's why we're seeing, heightened ankle sprains that lead to worse things down the line. That's why we're seeing ACLs, LCLs, MCLs. We're seeing shoulder injuries, we're seeing back injuries, hip injuries, labrum tear, little things and big things like that, because athletes are doing one thing all year round, but then they're also, even if they're a multi-sport athlete, they're doing their sport, and then that night they're going to do something else. And it's just, they're just doing too much. So the general adaptation syndrome looks at, that if you go onto Google and type it in, you'll see the chart. We have our alarm phase, our resistance phase, and then we have our exhaustion phase. So what's happening is, right, your body is spiking, your body's alarmed. Something's going on, so it's firing, it's doing different things. And then we have this resistance phase where, it's trying to adapt, it's trying to get better. And then we drop into that exhaustion phase where we see a decline in performance, which is appropriate. That's how we're going to get stronger, we're going to get faster, we're going to get more explosive. But the problem is, if athletes are doing too much, they're continually driving into that exhaustion phase. And that's where we see soft tissue injuries that travel up the spectrum into a bigger injury that causes athletes to be out 4, 6, 8, or even 24 weeks. So this is that, no pun intended, the alarming aspect of playing 358 games or practices and only strength training 24 to 48 times throughout the year, because we do know when you're playing your sport, you're typically going to get better at your sport. You're going to be a better shooter. You're going to be a better ball handler. You're going to be better tactile. You might be better defensively just because you're reading and reacting more efficiently, because you've just been playing and you can see things quicker. And that's a great thing. But are you getting faster? Are you getting more explosive? And are you getting stronger? And are you working on those weak areas to make you less injury prone? Typically, while playing sport, no, those things aren't going to happen, right? For young athletes, if you're playing basketball, yeah, you could get more athletic the first couple years when you're 6th, 7th, 8th grade, if you're going up against older kids, if you're getting different reps of different movements. But typically that 9th to 12th grade years, you're not going to get stronger playing basketball, right? Because you're just in that exhaustion phase all the time. You're not building. So that's where you factor in nutrition, sleep, things like that. So this idea of when the season ends, and you've noticed, you've sat down with pen and paper, or you talk to your coaches and they're like, listen, you got to get stronger, you got pushed around too much in the paint, or you weren't finishing well, and then you weren't as explosive, you're not able to get up to the rim, like you need to in basketball. Well, playing basketball over and over again, not getting up to the rim, is not going to help you get up to the rim. You need to figure out what your body needs to be able to do that, and you need to manage this exhaustion phase. So I just wanted to bring that to your attention. Just wanted to chat about that a little bit. And it's, I'm not going to provide any answers to that right now. I just really want you to think about that. Basketball players are playing their sport up to 358 days a year, and that goes for club, volleyball, and baseball. And athletes are only strength training 24 to 48 times a year, 1 to 2 times a week for only half the year, and then they completely fall off. So those are those two stats. Look up the GAS theory. That's a general adaptation syndrome. If you want to learn more about that, I thought those were good pieces and helpful information that I wanted to share with all of you. So thanks for tuning in. Again, share, like, comment, pass this along to a teammate, to an athlete. Word of mouth is the best way to help, brand what we're doing and bring awareness to some of the good work that we're doing out at Fit Strength Performance. Thanks so much, and have a great day.